Welcome back. Yes, another season of Beyond Our World here on Horror Fiend TV. I am so excited about this season because, unlike the previous season, we are not going to go into space. We are prepping up for, you've seen it in the news here and there, UFO spottings all over the world, more than usual. But what can you say? They're out there. We know they're out there. And yes, we are prepared for an invasion for this season. Are you ready? Let's go.
What is that?
Be quiet, be quiet, be quiet.
We are going to be talking about Monsters 2010, written and directed by Garrett Edwards, starring Scoot McNairy as Andrew Calder, Whitney Abel as Samantha Wyden. After NASA discovered possibility of alien life, once again we meddle in things we shouldn't be meddling because when you meddle into the unknown, it leads to chaos, destruction, and death. So they decide to send a probe, and after crashing during reentry, it lands in Central America, mostly Mexico, and this new alien life form begins to invade. So Mexico and United States must join forces. They form this quarantine zone, and unfortunately, this is where our story begins to take fold. Because Andrew, who's a journalist, very cynical, is hired by his boss to go into Mexico and bring back his daughter Samantha. So Andrew, being the hero, but reality being the journalist because he gets to see some of the stuff in the quarantine zone, goes to help Samantha, and after a night of partying, well, boy fucks up and he loses everything they have. Now, prior to this, they basically purchased tickets at an astronomical cost in order to catch a ferry to bring them to the United States. But unfortunately, because my boy Andrew messed up, he couldn't basically keep his liquor down and keep his pants on. Well, he puts them in the bind. So now they must do the unthinkable. They must go into the quarantine zone. Now, this film shows a lot of possibilities of what could happen in these situations, especially with the greed, as we get to see with the Ticketmaster, how he basically swindles everybody into paying these costs in order to basically escape. But in reality, think about it. Would you pay to go into a quarantine zone where there's these unknown creatures? And one of the things about this film, it is a slow burn. This guy loves slow burns. And if you don't recall who Scoop McNairy is, for you superhero movie fans, comic books, he was the guy in the wheelchair in the Batman vs. Superman film. And yes, he played a bad guy. Unfortunately, he lost his legs after the battle between Superman and General Zod. All right, I'm going off course, but technically, I'm still talking about aliens. So yes, this journey is very well done. I mean, the beauty of this landscape that they must travel, entering the quarantine zone, and this is, I think, where the movie did very well. Also, you had two characters who were technically broken characters with their own skeletons and demons they're fighting, must travel through this quarantine zone. Now, the boat ride was very beautiful. I mean, I enjoyed the scenery of this film. Cinematography of this film was done very well. The casting was done very well because Samantha and Andrew had a very good connection, which we'll see later in the film play a different part. But yeah, One thing also, was it not cool that this film actually, if you didn't realize it, the beginning of the film is actually the end of the film, and the end of the film is a circle back to where the film started. A little bit of a twist, a little bit of a turn, but I enjoyed the fact that they did that. And hopefully you noticed it. If you didn't, watch it, you'll notice it now. But yeah, I love the fact that these two broken people were basically traveling into this quarantine zone and they were forced to basically interact. Now, not for nothing, would you be pissed off if somebody lost your passport and you were stuck? You had to trek through this. But this is what makes this film very well because it is a very well written film. Now, let's get back to the cinematography because the scenes in this film I enjoyed so much. So, one of the scenes I love the most is when they join up with this convoy and they go into the woods and the guy starts to explain to them about these creatures, the fact that they come and they attach themselves almost like mushrooms, like an EDM style mushrooms, the lights, flickering and stuff like that. Be a nice party, you know, in the middle of the woods, in the middle of the forest. I'm sorry, but well, actually, no, jungle. This is Mexico, but yes, in the middle of the jungle, these things basically attach themselves to the trees. They look like mushrooms, with, like I said, the EDM light effects. But the fact that the way the guy explained it, that they attach themselves to the trees, the vegetation, they basically break out, work their way into the ocean, and come back these massive Cthulhu like creatures, which we'll look at later. But I like the explanation of that because it was brief, well done, and the point of the film where they did it was very, very smart. So that's another thing with the convoy scene because we hear these creatures and we see some of the light displays in one scene, basically when they're going in the river. But the convoy scene, when we've seen what happens when you cross one of these creatures, was very epic and very brutal. So after the incident with the convoy, when they're attacked, they basically shelter in one of the jeeps overnight, waiting for these things to disappear, and eventually they start making their way again. But I love the fact that they stumble upon this pyramid and they climb to the top of the pyramid. And one of the beautiful landscapes of this film was the massive wall that was built between the Mexicans and the United States. I would say most of the United States, but to keep these invaders out. So they stay on top of this pyramid. They have a conversation. And talk. I mean, that landscape was just so gorgeous. I think I would have just stood there this whole time. I mean, granted, you're stuck in a quarantine zone, but yeah, that's besides the point. But I like the fact that they showed this whole thing. They showed this monolith of a freaking wall, and that wall was the hopes of keeping these things out. But eventually, once they cross the border, you realize, well, there's nothing that could keep these things out. So I mentioned about the Chulu-like creatures. That's another thing that this film did well. It could have basically used the CGI to the utmost and showed us these creatures constantly. But whenever these creatures showed up, it was done at the right time. For example, once they cross the border and they make it to this gas station, they're conversating, and you could feel the emotion between both of them. The fact that they reached the destination, they contacted the military to come get them, but neither one of them wanted to go home, which I love that in this film. But as Andrew goes basically call his son, which was a whole sad story after, well, during the film, Sam is calling her fiance. So this is where you see more of the skeletons and demons that both these characters are fighting. So at the point where the film is at its most emotional high is when we get to see this. I don't know about you, but I thought that was like very romantic and a National Geographic type creepy level. But I love the fact that you saw these creatures who you're meant to fear throughout the film show their side of they're just like any other creature. They're looking to find their way and they're looking to mate. Now, I love the special effects as far as the way they light up. I like the fact that they needed, I mean, the scene where the tentacle goes into the gas station, into the store, and basically is feeding off the electricity coming from the TV. I liked that scene. I thought Samantha was going to get it, but that was pretty cool. I mean, this film has so many good things, qualities about it. Cinematography, once again, great. The casting was tremendous. I love a film that could minimize the cast and focus on two characters. Now, throughout this journey, these two characters showed a little bit of themselves, a little bit of the anger they had in situations, and the compassion they eventually developed for one another. Yes, this film was very well done. So, why did I pick it as my first episode? Well, because out of all the creatures, out of all the aliens that are coming your way, these are probably the most docile. And I really enjoyed this film. And I really do think this film falls under the radar. It needs to be talked about a little bit more because it is a good film. It is a good science fiction film. It has this little sprinkle of horror, but overall, it is a complete film because it does have a good storyline intertwined with the journey of escaping these alien invaders at the same time, trying to get back home, but realizing once you're back home, you don't even know what home is anymore because you don't want to go back to your home. And once again, the way the film begins, the way it ends comes full circle. This film is a very well done film, and I hope you watch it. It's currently streaming on Peacock, and I rewatched it again last night, and I was so anxious to talk about it. Like I said, the cast tremendous, the scenery, the landscape, the cinematography, well done, the storyline, the characters, everything. This film offers a lot for you science fiction fans, especially if you want to see a different interpretation of an alien. Because we're accustomed to the little Martian looking guys with the big eyes, but the fact that we showed a creature who at one point strikes fear, but at the same time, you understand it's just trying to find its way in an unknown world. So, yes, watch it. Currently, like I said, it's streaming on Peacock. Let me know what you think of this film. Let me know what science fiction films that you think I should talk about because I have my list, but if there's one or two specifically you want me to talk about, I'm game. Yes. Beyond Our World season 2, and we have guests in this season. There might be 2 or 3 live streams. I already have the episodes I'm thinking about, especially the films that need to be talked about with a nice panel. But yes, let me know what you think of this film. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share. We are just beginning, and let's get ready for this invasion coming your way from Horror Fiend TV. This is JR, the villain. Peace.